Hi, thank you for joining us for a special noodle class. We're broadcasting again from Kagawa, Japan. My name is Akira, and this is maybe my colleague. And we're very excited today because we're talking about our favorite food. That's gyoza. And gyoza is an amazing food, and because it's perfect meal. Like it's got like protein, fiber, and then fat, carbohydrates, everything, right? Like complete meal, and it's a casual meal. That's like you just now bite. You can just bite and one piece of gyoza, and then like you got everything, right? And then it's perfect for delivery and takeout, and so that's what we are talking about today. And again, like I'm, scribble something on the whiteboard. So like we're just gonna go through this whiteboard first, and then it's gonna make like really perfect gyoza wrapper skin on our noodle machine later on, like from scratch. So let's get started. And so gyoza is like like we love it because it's delicious, right? And then but it's got like so much depth to it, and we can actually do like entire course on it, just on this. Um, it's like a completely like one independent genre of cuisine, we think, and we're really fascinated by it because um, there's just so much depth to it. So let's get started. So we're talking about how to make delicious wrapper skins for gyoza and dumplings. And so for what we're talking about today is just like the texture of gyoza and the shape and size and all that, and then of course like fillings and everything, and then recipes, like actual recipes, plus like how to production methods. And so let's get started with texture of wrapper. And like as we've been talking about like in the other classes, talking about like different types of like ramen noodles, udon noodles, right? Like I guess the deliciousness, right? Deliciousness like noodles and everything like comes from like the texture, right? The final texture that you want your customers to taste, sense, right? Of the dough, it's like noodles. So how we can we get like the great final texture, the gyoza wrapper, right? So of course, like we have to, nail all these like three factors that we've been talking about in the other classes of hydration. Hydration basically, how much liquid you're adding to the solid ingredients, and ingredients, right? Of course, the wheat flour, different types like grain flours, and ingredients we are talking about. Well, maybe for gyoza wrapper, like such ingredients as starch, maybe like tapioca starch and all that, and production methods that like which we are going to talk about later. And it's for gyoza, right? Like after this is the wrapper part that we are talking about here, like three things. But like when it comes to like wrapper skins, we have to like consider like cooking methods, right? That basically like there are four like main cooking methods like for dumpling gyoza skins. I mean gyoza, like grill, deep frying, and steaming and boiling. So we have to like because after we put the fillings and then like wrap them like in skin, and we're gonna cook it and different methods. So we have to think about okay, what that final texture be. Or is it gonna be like crispy or like is it gonna be like soft and chewy or what do we want, right? So we have to think about that, and we have to think about the balance between the wrapper and fillings. Like for example, like the filling volume, how much like filling like we're putting in, like how much meat, how much like fat, how much fiber we're putting in there, and wrapper and thickness, wrapper thickness, size and shape, right? So sometimes like of course like this, of course like gyoza, dumplings that come from like Chinese cuisine originally, and then like they do like when you go to China, like certain city in China, like how they do it is like they usually have like these artisans, right? These like technicians that who just like do them like by hand, right? So they have like dough, and then do it by hand, like they're like tiny like rolling pin, they're like thin it, and then like so there are some parts that are like the center part like is thicker than the edges. So the different shapes, round, like square, what kind of shape are you're doing. And in Japan, we have like a lot of ramen shops that like serve gyoza as side dishes. Or like we do have like kind of specialty shops like that specialize in actually offering gyoza or dumplings as the main product, right? So, for example, like we have like one bite size gyoza, like it's really small size, like you can just put one piece like just in the mouth, like just one bite, and they're like this is kind of like what's trending in Japan, and like extra thick skin gyoza, and then this is used for grilled gyoza as well, like and then boiling gyoza as well. It's really thick. Like they make it like really thick, like 2 millimeter, like 3 millimeter thick gyoza skin, and then it's really yeah, like you have to eat it to be able like kind of appreciate that. But like so there are many variety, and then like so there's so much depth to it. And so if you're talking about like this is like let's pretend like this is skin, right? Like cross section skin, and then um, so like there are different cooking methods like grill, fried. So I think like grill, fried cooking methods are kind of like we consider like as kind of group, right? And then on the other side, like we have like steamed, like boiled skin gyoza, and then so typically like these types like steamed, like boiled skin, typically tend to be like thicker than the grilled and fried skin. So the hardness, like usually, it's kind of like noodle, texture, kind of like correlation between like softness, like hardness, and thickness, like size, thick, thin. So harder it goes, like thinner, and then softer, like thicker. So so how we can make like the hardness of the skin, right? It's like depends on like hydration, typically between like 33% and 45 and over. And ingredients, right? Ingredients we are talking about, like of course, like protein. Protein like makes the noodle texture hard, right? So higher the protein, the harder. And viscosity, like that comes like basically starch, right? Starch that's contained in wheat flour, or you can like use like starch that's protein. I'm sorry, the tapioca starch and the other type of starch, like maybe like cornstarch and stuff. You can add that to so like increase the viscosity of the skin. Um, I forgot to mention that like so hydration basically higher the hydration softer, lower the hydration harder, right? And so we have basically like it's either like round or square, and then the size of it, like of course like the size like diameter, right? Diameter of the like if it's round, it's like it's in the range of like maybe like even smaller ones. There may be like even smaller ones, like about 60 millimeter, and 120, or like maybe a little bit bigger, but like something around there. Like and then I think like it really depends on like like how much like how much filling we're putting in there, and of course, like of course, smaller the size of the skin, right? Now, of course, like smaller the filling, you can't put too much of it there, and so um, so dumpling, right? And then so yeah, the other thing like we have to go through is that like so grilled skin, grilled like grilled gyoza and like fried gyoza, typically skin is thinner, right? Thinner. So what we want is that like when we are wrapping the skins, right? So like we sometimes like stretch it a little bit, like and then like fold it, right? So the skin itself has to be stretchable, right? It's like it has to be has to like have like certain level of like a stretchability, like it has to like it has to be flexible, it needs to be stretched like in a certain point, like otherwise like it breaks, right? Like rip. So so usually we use hot water instead of like just tap water, like ambient temperature water, over 50 degrees Celsius in temperature. The reason for that is that like if you want to work on the starch, like yeah, the gluten-free noodle that we did like in different previous class, we want to gelatinize the starch by adding hot water, right? Hot water. And then at the same time, what it does is that like it actually inhibits the viscoelasticity, which is like pretty much a gluten, right? It is like gluten development. So it keeps down the viscoelasticity, which makes the like hardens the noodle and dough texture, and so that kind of may contribute to like breaking of that skin. So we want to skins that don't break, right? Like when wrapping. So for grilled skin, grilled gyoza, like we want to work on the starch. And then for boiled, right, boiled skin, I mean boiled gyoza and like steamed one, we want to work on the like noodles, right? Like regular noodles. We flour-based noodles. We want to work on the gluten. So just use the water like ambient temperature to develop gluten, and that promotes the viscoelasticity, right? And so we want the skins that get well cooked without breaking boiling water. So that's the difference. And so going to the recipe. So this is just kind of like regular grilled gyoza dumpling wrapper skins. So for solid ingredients, right? We're going to use the wheat flour, like protein of like 11.5%. Basically for standard like for standard like there's not much standard in there, but like ramen noodles. Then the total of 4,000 grams because the machine that we're gonna use like the mixer, the minimum batch is 4,000 grams. And for the liquid, right? Liquid we have like so hydration ratio. We set it at 40%. So inside this liquid, like we have like hot water, right? Hot water, 36%, vegetable oil, 2%, salt, 1%, sugar, 1%, and total of 1,600 grams, 1,600 grams, right? So 2% means like 2% to the solid, right? So like, for example, that's 80 grams, 40 grams, or 40 grams. So that's how you calculate it. And so the production methods, and so we have to measure, right? You have to measure ingredients, right? First, right? One by one, by weight, right? Always by weight. Because we want to be precise. We want to be precise. Like we don't want to look at the volume, the scale, and they're like, okay, that's 4,000 grams, and then, that's not accurate. So you want to weigh everything by weight. Okay, so the mixing, that is hydrating the solid ingredients, and mixing times, yeah, basically like 6 minutes. Like, so we wanna, well, mix it first, right? Like with just 2/3 of water, like liquid, and then open it and then clean inside, like kind of like make sure that everything like mixed together well, and then mix another 2 minutes with the rest of the water. And we wanna do resting, right? Aging, like we talked about, like the effects of the resting, benefits like that come out of like resting in the previous class, right? So, and we do like combining, right? We separate the dough sheet, the two, and like we combine them together. And after that, we're just gonna thin it and well to the final thickness. I mean, yeah, final thickness. And we are going to do the cutting. Well, cutting means like kind of punching them out and then like separating and store them. So this is so these are production methods. And so so let's start making some gyoza skin. So today, again, like we have like our Richmond One machine. That's Richmond One, and yeah. So this particular unit is for Europe, EU countries that require all the goods to have like CE mark, and this one has it. So first, we talked about this flour, right? Like for ramen flour, protein content like 11.5%, and so we put it there, this 10 kilograms mixer, and then just mix it, right? So we're gonna make this solution, right? So we're heating it, right, with salt and sugar and the vegetable oil, right, 2%. That's 80 grams. Yeah, we're heating it up, right? So we did a mixing of just flour, right? Just flour like for 1 minute, and then we're going to add this liquid, hot liquid, hot liquid coming through, and just kind of pour it in there, and everything we put in. And so for first, like we do like 4 minutes, right? Do 4 minutes, and we're gonna do 4 minutes, and then like after that, we're gonna well kind of like clean them inside, like so because there's some parts of the dough like that's wetter than the other parts, so we want like mix them up to make sure that like all the dough is like hydrated like kind of equally, and but maybe we prepare this dough like advance the same recipes, and we'll rest it. So first resting is done by actually putting the dough in the plastic bag and letting it sit for like 30 minutes an hour, room temperature. And so we're gonna start sheeting it and to make a rough sheet of dough. And it's important to see the size of the dough, like the size of the chunk of the dough, how big it is, right? And then depending on that, like we adjust the roller gap of these two rollers that we are feeding this dough to make this sheet of dough, right? And so we have to like keep feeding it, like so that we're gonna have like this continual sheet of dough, and then um, we want to be like going kind of slowly at this point, because we want to like make sure like to apply good pressure into the dough, so that like this like gluten is getting developed, and then you know you're getting like appropriate like proper pressure, right? And so at this point, like we are sheeting it, like thinning it at 1.5 millimeter roller gap, and that's the appropriate thickness for like roller gap for this size of dough. And even though it's like 40% hydration ratio, which is considered high hydration ratio noodles, I mean noodles or the dough. Um, the dough size is not as big as we do like for that maybe because like we added like vegetable oil and has like sugar and like salt in it. So yeah, that may be why. Because like actual amount of water is just 36%. So that may be why. And also the like temperature of the liquid kind of like was kind of working there as well. So I just keep feeding the dough. So usually like we make well ramen noodles. Like this machine is like designed to make ramen noodles. Okay, so after 4 minutes, right? Um, yeah, that's how I was turning my the dough, and so there are like some flowers, like some dough debris that are kind of stuck on the blades and like in the walls, walls with the mixer. So like make sure that you you know take those off, even just roughly, then that makes a big difference. So we do that, and then we'll mix it for another 2 minutes. Okay, so that's rough foaming, and so we want to like this. This dough is like still very weak. It's easy to break, so we want to make it stronger to further develop the gluten structure inside, and so we want to separate it to well, two sheets of dough, and combine it through the roller gap. And after like so that was like 1.5 millimeter roller gap, and combine them together. Well, that's equivalent of like 3 millimeter dough in thickness. That's going through the roller, and the roller gap we set is 2 millimeter, and so you know that's like actually 30% reduction from the thickness of the dough, like that's going through the roll, passing through the roller. Um, so we want to okay, the mixing is done. So we want to reduce the thickness of dough, like gradually, to keep the gluten structure like from getting damaged. So we want to go slow at this point, and then we want to apply good pressure, and then we want to, but like not too much, right? Not too much. So we apply this rule, like 30% reduction rule, and so this rich mold machine is capable of like making like different types of noodles, dough, right? Like gyoza skin, and then previously like we did like spring roll skins as well. Of course, like you can make like wonton skins. And the difference between like wonton skin and the gyoza skin is whether or not like contains kansi. Because like wonton is like basically like wonton like gets cooked, right? Gets cooked in hot water like stock. So in process like constantly dissolved in the cooking water. So we add like constantly to well, so like make the texture well like kind of harden like or to the kind of ideal condition. But gyoza is like this, like without boiling them, like grilled gyoza especially. We just do like we so, like if you use concentrate, right, like that would like just stay in the skin, right? So that's really that would like really taste like really probably unpleasant. So that's why we don't use kanshi gyoza skin. And so this is the second combining process, and we usually do this process like twice. And so that was 2 millimeter roller gap like this dough like pass through right rollers, and so that's 2 plus 2 like 4. So 4 millimeter equivalent dough like is going through a rollers. And so maybe we set the roller gap to 3 millimeter. So again, like that's like 30% reduction kind of, 4.4 times, yeah, yeah, like 0.7, right? It's like is minus 30%. Um, so that's roughly like 30% reduction. And after that, like just, we're not gonna combine them again. So we'll start dusting. Yeah, just make sure they're not gonna stick together. So we keep dusting. So this is the automatic duster that like you can actually well control like volume dusting volume, the touch of knob, and yeah, basically higher the hydration, like the more you have to dust to make sure that it's not gonna stick, right? So and and also like from this point on we can go faster. You can speed up the rolling sheeting process. It's easy to do that like with the volume. And we're going to start sheeting faster from this point on to the final thickness. And well, again, like we're still like keeping that 30% reduction rule. So from 3 millimeter to 2 millimeter. Yeah, so like we made a variety of like different, variety of like ramen noodles, udon noodles, even like soba noodles, and some gluten-free noodles. And it was like we are doing that right now, like gyoza skin and like spring roll skin and well, the wonton skin we just talked about, and yeah, like almost like all kinds of noodles, wonton noodles, like Hong Kong wonton, egg noodles, um, on this machine, and so it's very versatile, and you can it's almost like you can this machine can handle like all the dough like that ranges from like 25% to maybe like 40%, maybe like over like maybe like up to like 45 the hydration. And so it's well it's probably up to your imagination, like what kind of noodles are you, what kind of like dough, kind of like well the dough product like you can make with this machine. And yeah, like we get like amazed like by some of the customers are actually using this machine, and what they are doing with this. Um, yeah, it's just like they do like a lot of experimentation and like doing I mean using like different ingredients, like local ingredients, local grains, and it's really amazing. Yeah, what they're doing with this machine, and it's really compact, and then it's um, small, like it doesn't take up much space, and one person without like any experiences like actually start making spark noodles, right away. So and it was really flexible, and I think it's a perfect like piece of equipment that you can invest into, such your own micro noodle factory business that we are talking about. We've been talking about, and so it's really flexible. Right? So we like kind of like keep sheeting it, and following the 30% reduction rule, and but after like going through 1.5 millimeter roller gap, let's see like what the actual thickness is, and that's 1.9, and so there's like 0.4 difference between the roller gap and the actual thickness though. So we have to like be aware of this, the discrepancy between the roller gap we set and the actual thickness of the actual dough, right? So 0.4 millimeter difference, and so now we're like still following the 30% reduction rule. Um, it's now like passing through the 1 millimeter roller gap, and then so as it gets thinner and thinner, right? Like dough, gets, well, of course, like it's well, kind of what it seems like it's supposed to be like softer, um, easier to rip, right? Because it's thinner, right? So because um, so you need to have like you need to be like a little bit more gentle, like when you're handling it. So with this machine, you should be able to get that thickness, well, down to probably um, less than zero point 0.5 millimeter. But like, it really kind of depends on, well, because all these variables like factors like, hydration, um, kind of ingredients you used. We talk about like the protein, right? The protein, like what the protein content, like the flour you're using. If you're using like lower protein content flour, like udon flour some, and then like that's softer. Then of course like ramen noodle flour. So even though it's like hydration is the same, like it feels softer, and it is softer. And so and yeah, and then so that you have to like put into your consideration. So that's going to like 1 millimeter roller gap. So now let's see, it's okay, 1.2 ish. Okay, so the difference gets smaller than before, and so what is the final thickness we're aiming at, and then so we can probably like guesstimate the final thickness to be, well, 0.2 millimeter or like 0.1 millimeter thicker than the roller gap we set, right? So yeah, we set that roller gap to 0.8, and we're aiming at like really 1.0 millimeter or like, yeah, 1.9, somewhere around there, the final thickness for this particular batch. And so let's start it. So we use this, we call it like gyoza drum. It's a stainless steel drum that, well, that comes really handy, like, when you're doing the gyoza skin wrapper. And again, like, we want to reduce the speed from this point on because it's kind of like, well, kind of sensitive process. So we want to, make sure that like that the sheet is going to be, uh, like kind of cleanly like lined onto the drum, right? Yeah, this is like this moment, like you have the bit serious with your hands and like with the motion to make sure that like this she gets wound nicely on the gyoza drum, and just um, yeah, slightly increase the volume speed. And the machine does the rest of it for you. So just gonna, yeah. But make sure that like you're dusting during this process too. So this is automatic, like so you don't have to be engaged. But like um, you might want to like control the speed a little bit, dusting volume a little bit, and the machine does the rest of it. Yeah, so it's very quiet, right? Like it's not like not making much of noise. So like and well, so the mixing is done, right? Like making the batch, right, and then doing the dough, and then and like you can actually, and then like you can put the dough like in a plastic bag, right, and then you can actually start another batch because the motor, the mixer motor is like there's a mixer motor, and there's a roller motor. Well, like there's a motor for the roller unit, and there's a well another motor for the portioning cutter as well. Like and there's a motor for automatic duster. So like you can do like the mixing process, and then the sheeting process like at the same time. So you don't have to wait. You can do other. You can schedule um, different noodles, different batches of dough at the same time, because the mixing time is like a shorter. So high hydration ratio noodle, like that's like just 5 minutes, and then but if you're doing like low hydration ratio noodles like hakata or tonkotsu noodles, that's 15 minutes. But you know, probably like while you're doing like this sheeting process, you can make well maybe two of like few batches like different doughs. So yeah, you can just like keep working. All right, so that's so we just made like nice gyoza wrapper that's ready to cut. So she just made like vertical cut and to the those sheets, and so basically we'll kind of spreading them out to have multiple layers of dough, right? Those sheets, and we have like all these the mold cutter, and different sizes, of course, like different diameters. You can just punch them out, right? Just punch them out like that, and then one punch like would make like 20 or like 30 skins, right? And yeah, and then like for so there are some parts of the dough like that's not gonna be used for like if you're making like round wrapper, but like if you're making square, right? You're making square, you're making them square, then we're not gonna, well, it's gonna be a waste, but like we're not like we are using all these skin up, right? All this dough, using up like all this dough, right? And then um, so all these areas with dough that's not going to be like the part of the round skins, right? And they are going to be like we can still use them. We can still use them, like we can mix them up like in a new batch, and put it in the rough foaming process, and then yeah, so we can reuse them, repurpose them. Like the quality would be like a bit different, but like we can still use them. Like if especially if you are using the exact same recipes. Yeah, so that's I'm not sure. Like I don't know how many of them there are, but like there are like 20 or 30 of them. Like in this one, it's like so we made about um, yeah, I'll say like maybe like 200, 300 or some skins. So you know it's easy, like fast. Like if you're talking about like if you serve like maybe 300 pieces of gyoza, like 400 pieces, like 500 even a day, or like even like thousands, right? Thousand, like you could just like increase the volume, right? Then, so it's easy, um, fast. Um, yeah, and then like it's actually better than the like the ones like you buy it right from like vendors, and because you can make like original, like of course, and you can knead in like different ingredients, make different colors, like make different flavors. It's very easy to do. So just make sure that like you store them properly, and before you use them. So make sure like each layer of like skin like has like enough dusting.